This week is a solo reflection episode. It's going to be part of a series I called Rambling Reflections from the Road. Earlier today, on Thursday, July 20th, 2023, I was driving back from a 4-day camping trip, and I was reflecting on how critically important it was, being so stressed out, to disconnect and decompress. But it comes with a bit of a twist, because that disconnection, that decompressing, was done in a unique way that I'll ramble my way onto. And that's coming up later in this episode of the Stark Reflections podcast.
Welcome to the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast. There has never been a better time for writers. More information, options, and opportunities are available to you, but navigating these requires insight. Join Mark Leslie Lefebvre as he draws upon more than a quarter century of experience as a writer, a bookseller, and a trusted book industry consultant to explore and reflect on the writing and publishing landscape to help you make informed choices on your writer journey.
Hello, Reflectives, and welcome to episode 315 of the Stark Reflections podcast. This is your host, Mark Leslie Lefebvre. Today's episode is a special solo episode. It's going to be part of a series called Rambling Reflections from the Road, Part 1, or Rambling Reflections from the Road, the camping trip. Because I'm just going with something basic. In any case, this is something I recorded earlier today, and this is Thursday, July 20th, 2023, as I'm recording this. The audio is going to be a little bit off because I was wearing a Bone Conductor headset with the microphone built in, and I was recording this while I was driving. Right off the cuff, no editing. Well, there is a little bit of editing in terms of some of my throat clearing and stuff like that. And when I paused for long periods of time while I was distracted by driving, but actually paying attention to, more than just the standard boring highway stuff that was going on. But that's going to be all you get for this episode. There's not going to be any comments. And this episode is sponsored by the awesome people who support the Stark Reflection podcast over at patreon.com/Stark Reflections, where they get access to additional material. A huge thank you to my patrons, and a huge thank you, of course, to all my listeners. Thank you for listening. Let's play the bumper, and let's get into the main content for this episode. Hello, Reflectives. This is Mark Leslie Lefebvre, and I'm just leaving Point Farms Provincial Park. Point Farms Provincial Park is about 3 kilometers north of Goderich, Ontario, which is on the shores of Ontario's west coast. On the shores of Lake Superior. And Liz and I'm recording this on Thursday morning. This would be Thursday, July 20th. And we've been camping there since Sunday. Well, a little bit more about Sunday. I'll probably explain that. But what I'm doing is a basic reflection. Basic reflection on the fly, because I have about a 2-hour drive home, and I wanted to reflect on a few things related to stress and decompressing and de-stressing while working, which is kind of something that I did this week. So I did a weird combination, but I'll get into that. So the audio may be a little bit off as I'm in my car. I'm driving with Barnaby Bones, who's riding shotgun with me, my skeletal companion. And so let's just get into the reflection. So this month, July 2023, is an extremely stressful one. This summer actually is extremely stressful. Among the stressors that I have going on are lots of deadlines related to the work I do for Draft2Digital. There's a lot of deadlines and a lot of commitments and a lot of things that I had on my plate that all sort of had to get finished sometime before the end of July, early July, etc. Whether it was recording videos for online stuff, whether it was live broadcasts, putting together a catalog of indie author selected titles for a printed catalog that I'm going to be taking with me to Cleveland in early August for over Digipalooza. Overdrive has a big gathering with librarians from across North America, and we'll be pitching drafted digital author books to librarians, just like the publishers are pitching their books. So I've got a lot of deadlines just related to Draft to Digital. Deadline, so today, actually July 20th, 2023, is the release of Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Bleeper. And that is my Die Hard trivia book. Of course, if you've been listening to the podcast, you're probably familiar with me talking about that. So today, is release day for Yippee-Ki-Yay. And so it's about 7:19 a.m. Eastern, as we just packed up the campsite and left, and I'm heading back home. I have stacked a whole bunch of meetings, a whole bunch of work that's just difficult to do when you're at a campsite for today, for Thursday. On top of that, let me go back to my deadlines and all the things that I have on my plate. Is I am taking a master's in publishing program from Western Colorado University, and so I have there's 2 courses right now. I just finished off, just wrapping up the course for Common Curriculum or Common Read, which is all the master's students from all of the disciplines. So you've got publishing, which I'm in, poetry, nature writing, screenwriting, and genre fiction, I believe. And all of us are in this Common Reads, and we're reading Appropriate by Paisley Rechtel. Fantastic book about cultural appropriation, racial appropriation, subject appropriation, all the appropriations. And it seemed overwhelming. I'll probably do an episode or something about this book because I think it's a very important topic. I'm getting a chance to meet the author, but maybe I'd love if I get a chance during my residency, which I'll talk about, maybe bring her on the podcast because I think that would be really great to talk about. But so we've got this that master's program, which I had a class Monday night, while I was camping. And tonight I have the Introduction to Publishing taught by Kevin G. Anderson class as well. So the back-to-back classes or overlapping classes is part of that program. I have a house up north of Sudbury, Ontario, that I'm in the process of trying to get ready to sell. And so book deadline, master's program, Draft to Digital deadlines, other commitments related to my the consulting that I do with authors. So there's various other deadlines, but for the privacy of my clients, I shall not name those deadlines. But there's multiple deadlines there. I've got other books that I am publishing for other people under Stark Publishing, under my account, my imprint, and they're looming. I mean, there's some works in progress. I've got several pre-orders up, but I've also got some other works in play with some clients there, and I am preparing. So let me take this back. There's a lot going on, and how do you fit everything in at the same time? Well, you prioritize. Well, Liz loves camping, and she likes to book camping trips. We have to book them like in February sometime. So I had already committed to, on this previous Sunday, there's a West Avenue Cider, which is on Highway 6 in Ontario between Hamilton and Guelph, for anyone who's familiar with the area. West Avenue Cider is a cider house. They make, guess what? Cider. And apple orchard, etc. And there was a festival last year, it was sort of an outdoor event, and it's book and craft fair. So it was twice the size this year as it was last year. But I committed to that 9 months ago or more that I would come back because it was a good day for me. I sold a lot of books, and that happened to fall on the Sunday that Liz had booked the camping trip. So she booked Sunday to Thursday, 4 days. Now, normally we can never get our very favorite spot at Point Farms. Can never get this spot, more than 2 nights in a row. It's very rare for us to do that. And well, last year I think we had it 3 nights in a row, but on the second night there was a tornado warning, so we actually drove back home to sleep home because it was like nasty rainfall tornado warning. So we were there a night or two or something like that, then went home and then came back for the final night. Fortunately, the weather worked out for that. But anyway, so the weather was looking really nasty all the way up to this, thinking it was going to be raining all week. And it ironically was raining, closer to Waterloo a lot. But we lucked out. We had the 4 days, so Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and then Thursday leaving. Now, as we were watching the forecast, we saw 90% chance of thunder showers Thursday. And early on, it was looking like it was going to start at 4 in the morning. And then as time went on, it moved up, and now closer to 8. And we did end up getting some rain around 4 in the morning. It rained for like 4 or 5 minutes, very light, didn't even make mud outside, so that was fine. But we decided to start to pack as much up as possible in last night. So we have obviously we have the tent, but then we also have a shelter and an eating area that's sort of screened in. So we put that. There's 2 picnic tables at the site, and this is our favorite site because it's on the edge of. I'm rambling. I'm all over the place, but our favorite site at Point Farms, Spot 59, is the most private. You can't you go in. It's around a corner, so people can't see you when you're sitting by the campfire. You park your car in front so people can't see in anyways, and you got the tent there. But then there's also a great path. So it's about. I'm trying to say how many stories down it would be. Probably be about 5 or 6 stories down, an escarpment that's not dead drop, but it's steep, and the escarpment leads down to the banks of Lake Superior. And is it Lake Superior or is it Huron? I think it's Huron, and my apologies. Superior is north, and this is Lake Huron. There you go. Lake Ontario connects to Lake Erie, connects to Lake Huron, connects to Lake Superior. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Anyways, okay, back to the geography lessons. So, we're lucky. We're surrounded by all these wonderful Great Lakes, is what they're called. Anyways, there's a private trail at the back of the campsite that leads directly down to the beach. And the beach goes on for miles or kilometers, depending on where you are. And it is a wonderful beach. Now, we can't take our dog, Indiana, we can't take Indy to the regular beach that is dog-friendly because he does not get along well with most other dogs. Most other dogs, he just freaks out and barks, and he's an asshole, basically. So he doesn't socialize well. So we take him down to a sort of a secluded spot of the beach because we're right at the edge of the campground, like the property of the campground. Actually, where the trail comes down, it's not even on the Provincial Park property anymore. There's a nice beach there. It goes on, you can see Goderich, down on your left. And then there's even people who own private cottages on the water that are there. We go down there and he just loves it. He attacks the waves. He loves to play fetch, throw the stick out, and he'll just keep going until he can't swim anymore. We'll actually have to pull him in because he would probably end up drowning because he's just so excited to be doing that. But he's got time of his life off leash down there. Although we do keep a leash attached to him because there was an instant where another dog wandered in to the area and we had to grab him. But we have a good time. We bring down a picnic lunch, take a couple beers, our Kobo ebook readers, and sit on the beach on a blanket and just enjoy the sun. And I didn't go swimming this time. The waves were pretty high and it was kicking up a lot of the crud and stuff like that. So I didn't even go in the water, but we just enjoyed hanging out on the beach with Indy for several days. But this is a really fun time. So we have this private, secluded campground. I'm trying to remember what brought me to this tangent, but that's okay. I'll get myself back. We ended up packing up this morning very early. Packed up. I was talking about the tents and the other stuff. So we packed up all the the food and the coolers and all the things, and are hitting the road early. I got up at 6 and then got everything started. Then Liz got up shortly after and we got everything going. So I just left probably about a minute ahead of her. She's going to take Indy for a pee and then jump in the car and go. So we have 2 different cars. And I'll explain about that because that goes back to the West Avenue Cider. I had booked this, I'd paid for the table, I knew it was a good event, and it was. I made several $100s. I think I made close to $400 in sales. It doesn't mean that's $400 in profit, but I did well. I did well. I did way better than the cost of everything. So that was good. So I had this event booked, and then I didn't want to cancel going on that because of our camping trip, because the camping, now obviously you get to the site, I think it's like 2, you're usually allowed into the site at 2 p.m. And so my event was, I had to be there, I think 10:30 was setup time, it was noon till 5. And so, excited, I would just go and do my event. So I packed up my car, packed up my books, but now I had to take a couple things. I had to take one of the chairs that we take camping, so I had that with me. And then I had the one shelter that we used to put over the picnic table where we would do the food prep and stuff like that. And so I had that shelter because I needed that shelter, either for rain or for sun, my bald head, and that's my booth. So I did that event, and then Liz went to the campsite, and then I was to meet her. But the challenge was, of course, I ended up, by the time I pack up from the event, by the time that I get over to the campsite, which is a few hours drive, it was, 8:30? So just, and sunset's close to 9, between 8:30 and 9, this time of year. And so that kind of, Sunday was a much shorter day for fun and relaxing, and I was already, stressed out because I wanted to stop at Cowbell Brewing, which is in Blythe, Ontario, which is, on the way, and, it's sort of a tradition to stop there, pick up some beers to have at the campsite. But the good news is this year, so we made the best of it, right? So this year we had 2 vehicles. Normally it's us and Indy and the car with everything we need. And then Liz has a thing that she puts on the top of the car, like a canvas sack that we tie to the roof that we put a whole bunch of things in, like the tent and chairs and a whole bunch of like sleeping bags, etc. But in this particular case, I had my car, so we had extra room. So we actually took, instead of 2 coolers, I think we had 4 coolers, and we had extra room for things because I had to take the shelter with me, the sun shelter, and so we had we had a lot more, which made it a little bit better. It was a little, more costly because you have to pay for a second car for that time, but I ended up doing a lot of work from the campsite. So I have a remote Wi-Fi box that I use. Now it's very costly, it's expensive when I use it, and I've been using it a lot because this summer I've been on the road going up north to the house that I'm getting ready to sell, 6-hour drive away, and working remotely a lot where there's no Wi-Fi. But there's a park office when you first check in, and within, 50 feet, 100 feet of the building, you can get Wi-Fi, 5G, pretty powerful Wi-Fi. So a lot of times for meetings and for Zoom chats and stuff like that, I was going back to the office so I could get on the Wi-Fi. The downside was my battery on my laptop only lasts an hour when I'm not plugged in. It's not a great battery, and so especially when you're doing Zoom calls and stuff like that. So I could only, and there's no electricity at the site, right? So we're trying to charge things up. Now, my car can charge while the car's off. So we can put like a laptop in and then use the converter for the little, I guess it used to be the little lighter socket, which cars still have, even though it's not a lighter, it's just a socket now for electricity. And so we're constantly recharging. I had some portable packs that we all kind of died after. It's good for a couple days, but not good for 4 days, as we're constantly recharging our phones and Fitbit watches and smartwatches and everything, and laptops. So I was constantly having to recharge the laptop, and then also make sure I drive the car around the park a little bit just to make sure that the battery doesn't drain. The alternator's got to recharge and give the battery more of a charge. So did a lot of that. But this is where I'm going to get to the point. Do I have a point? Who knows? But if there's a point, I think it's that I was really freaked out and stressed out on the first day. Also, I was getting the very first physical proof copy delivered of Yippee-Ki-Yay, but it arrived while we were camping on Monday. I thought it was going to arrive on Sunday, which would give me a chance to make sure that the spine and everything is perfectly aligned. Like, all the other proofing was done, but that was that final proof just to make sure that the mass market sized paperback looked good. So I had to arrange with my neighbor, reached out to my neighbor from the campsite when I saw that it got delivered, asked her to go grab it off my front porch and take a look at it. And Carol and her husband Chris are great. They went and grabbed it. They took a whole bunch of pictures of it and sent them to me. And I did have to make a very, very minor adjustment, maybe just a couple millimeters near the front spine, and I did one other adjustment to the text on the back just to keep it a little further away from the edges, but that was perfectly fine. I managed to get all that done, but I was a gigantic stress molecule. I was freaked out because not only that, we've got to go back up to Levack tomorrow on Friday when this podcast episode releases to do more work to the house, which is some drywall patching, meet with a real estate agent, and get everything ready for listing. And then I'm back home for a few days. Then I have to go to Western Colorado University. I'm going to Gunnison, Colorado for my residency, where I'm actually staying in residence. $30 a night, $20 for the week to have sheets and blankets and a pillow. And I've never actually stayed in a residence before. So then right after that, and I'm actually missing the first day of When Words Collide, I have to fly to Calgary right from there to When Words Collide, representing Draft to Digital. I had lanyards I had to order and get ready for them. I still have business cards I have to mail them, this pre-stuff. Then I'm home for a day, and then I drive to Cleveland for Draft to Digital. So it's this non-stop busyness of what I'm going to do. And so why did I decide to still go camping? Well, I'm just about to stop and get a Tim Hortons coffee and get some gas for the car, and I'll continue part 2 in just one moment. You won't even notice practically. And now for part 2. So I just, for anyone who's curious, I stopped at the Esso and Tim Hortons in Blythe, right across one of the crossroads of the highways from Cowbell Brewing, and had a sausage farmer's wrap and extra large double with milk. You're not familiar with the term double and how it's used in Tim Hortons? Go look it up. Use the Google. In any case, just finished a lovely breakfast, got my coffee, and I am en route. But back to the whole point of this. So I have these deadlines, numerous deadlines, very little time, so much going on, and I'm not even at home for most of what's going on. Now, one of the other more important deadlines, and this is important, is for me personally and for you, is I have not missed a single week of this podcast since I launched it, the first week of January 2018. In the 6th season of the podcast, I have not missed a single episode. Yes, there have been shorter episodes. Yes, there's been additional episodes, and episodes like this, which are sort of just me rambling reflections, they may want to call them. But that's an important commitment to me, because I committed to both myself as well as to you, dear listener, that I would have content for you every single week. And I know it's important to relax. I know it's important to not kill yourself, to get things done, to get off the treadmill, etc. But I'm a loyal person, and commitments are really important to me. If I say I'm going to do something, it's really important for me that I do it. And when in my life, and there's been times, I'm a human, there have been many times when I have not been able to honor commitments. That's soul crushing for me. That really hurts. So missing an episode's kind of not a thing, right? Which is why I'm doing this in the car. So on top of all the things going on, all the travel, all the deadlines and stuff, I admit I'm very lucky. I'm one of the few people who can work. I mean, I only technically work for Drafted Digital 20 hours a week. I actually took reduced hours over the summer because I knew it was going to be a crazy busy summer, and of course the rest of my week is personal writing, other consulting, etc., etc. But I'm lucky that I can work anywhere. I can pack up my laptop. I can do a lot of stuff on my phone. Oftentimes, if it's just consulting, I can talk to people from anywhere, and I take a lot of calls while I'm in the car because it's easy enough to just bounce ideas back and forth or share updates, etc. But a lot of the work that I have to do requires being in front of a computer, like laying out the catalog for Overdrive, or even as I'm laying it out, like I have to actually verify that the book is live at Overdrive through Drafted Digital, and that I've got to verify the ISBN and the library price and all these different things to put it together. And then in some cases, writing up little sales copy blurbs, like just like one-liner. Like sometimes it's really nice when the author provides, hey, dear author, it's very nice when the author provides a single sentence log line that summarizes a series or a book, because I'm able to leverage that. In a lot of cases, you go to the series page and you don't have a summary for the series at all. It's just a series. I got to check to make sure that even Amazon makes that an option. And I'm going to go do that for my series page, if not, because I'm trying to summarize, hey, here's a great series you should check out. Because the first book, it's not library, you can't set free for library price. But, the first book may be 99 cents to libraries, or $1.99 or something really inexpensive. So, try and say, hey, the first one's really, really cheap. And then there's a great series that would appeal to readers of, Michael Connelly, James Patterson, whatever the case may be. But in any case, I hope that aside offered you a little insight into where those log lines and those simple summaries, very, very concise summaries, could come in handy when someone's trying to help promote you in your book. So I can work from anywhere, so that's really lucky of me. And with all of these deadlines, I was actually at a point, last week, because we were up in Levack, and we're going back to Levack tomorrow. And I was actually at a point where I was thinking, I'm so freaked out, I'm so stressed out. Because again, back then I was still reviewing, not the editor's work, but the proofreading updates that, even after the editing, the proofreading updates for the Die Hard book were behind schedule. I was panicking on that. I was freaking out about everything that I had to do. Plus, I have homework for this master's class too. Things I have to read, essays I have to write, and unfortunately they're short essays, etc. But there's lots of proofreading itself that we're doing, lots of homework involved. But I was actually tempted to, you get to points like, I can't do this, and to say to Liz, no, I can't do this. But here's the thing. Liz is so important to me, and she loves camping. She's just in her element when she's camping. She really enjoys it. So does Indy. Indy just loves being outside with us. I did not want to miss it, and I like us. I like Liz and I when we're camping together, because it's the two of us collaborating, relaxing, just spending a lot of time not on devices, not on whatever, just relaxing. I mean, I love getting up in the morning and sitting with, putting camp coffee on, sometimes campfire or the little Coleman portable stove, getting the instant coffee ready, is just a relaxing time, because Liz enjoys sleeping in. I like being up in the morning, and that's just so I like us. I love Liz. And I was not going to miss out on this opportunity for us to be us together camping, because I love us together camping. I love us together, but camping is one of those experiences where I would not camp I would just not. Personally, I'm going to stay in a nice luxury hotel. That's where I'd rather stay. It would be much nicer if we had a trailer instead of a tent, although we do have a fantastic queen-size blow-up mattress that's very comfortable. And I insisted that we bought a larger tent that I could actually stand up in now, because I couldn't in the really small one we had before. But I love camping with Liz. I've gone camping with my son Alexander, but I'm not as much of a camping person. But I really like who I am when I'm camping with Liz, and I really relax. When I was coming here, when I was driving here on Sunday, it's Thursday now, and when I was anticipating having to do the book fair and then packing up my books and then bringing them back home and then grabbing the other stuff I needed and then taking it's not quite 2-hour drive, but from where I was, it was 2 hours. It was close to 3-hour turnover because, or 3.5 hours or whatever, because of the stuff I had to do along the way. But I was freaking stressed out. I was high strung. I was a nervous wreck. But now, after just having spent 4 days camping, and again, not 4 days of full decompression, 4 days where I did not as much work as I normally would do. I took it easy, but I still had a significant amount of work to do. I did a lot of Drafted Digital work over this past weekend on the catalog, and so I didn't have as much to do, but I did have meetings. I did have to attend to things. I did have email communications, contract negotiations, stuff like that that's going on, but it didn't require, and I don't work 8 hours a day for Drafted Digital anyway, so, popping in for a couple hours here, a couple hours there is more than enough to stay on top of what I was doing. Taking care of the homework I had to do, etc. I managed to work that in. So, when we were lying in the hammocks in the beautiful woods right behind our campsite, just on the edge of the escarpment, listening to the sound of the water is so relaxing. And reading, the homework assignment pieces. And even, on the Kobo you can highlight pieces. So I got highlight pieces so later on I could make notes for the essay I was going to write, or even the discussion we were having. I managed to incorporate some of the work I had to do into the relaxing. I managed to get some planning done for things that are deadlines where I actually have to record video or audio for consulting work, for Drafted Digital stuff, for my own personal stuff that my publicist got me assigned with. But I'm so much calmer now. And it's weird. This is it kind of goes against advice, like say no and don't add too much to your plate and stuff like that. But I realized that I would be more stressed out if I said no, didn't honor the commitments, didn't get the things done, pushed deadlines back, and in some cases there's no pushing deadlines back. But managing somehow, and I don't know how this happened, I owe this to Liz, of just sitting in front of the campfire and just chatting. Just, we picked rocks down on the lake, and the one evening she was doing watercoloring in front of the campfire, before it got too dark. And I was painting rocks. I was doing we have these painted rocks with fun messages and, pride flag colors and just positive messages like you're beautiful, you're important, you matter, and just leaving, or even sometimes I do a Spider-Man face or a skull or something. Just fun little sort of art projects on the rocks that we put in the rock garden that's on the curb in front of our house, and it's just a fun thing we started doing during the pandemic. But anyways, just sitting there and doing this craft, and I did that yesterday morning when I got up in the morning. I put on the coffee, and then I'm going to put a Rush lyric on this rock. I'm going to put, on one side of the rock, because a lot of them are flatter rocks, I did stars, a whole bunch of different colored stars in different star shapes. And then I have the quote from Space Oddity by David Bowie, "The stars look very different today." That combination combination of continuing to get the things done that I had to do while embracing the relaxing mindset, while being able to, it almost felt like I could compartmentalize. I actually turned my phone off when we went for these really long, there's kind of like a sort of a 6-7 kilometer hike loop, and Indy loves going on that loop, and it's just a great time because Liz and I are just walking. We got Indy there. He has the leash on him, but we can kind of let him walk with the leash dragging behind him. That way we can grab him if bikes come or another dog or something like that. But it's just such a wonderful experience to just be connected to nothing other than Liz and nature. And reflecting on what nature does to me. Could I have done the same thing and be as chill by doing the work somewhere else? I actually don't think so. I actually attribute a lot of my relaxation, a lot of the fact that I'm not as stressed out, I attribute that to my connection to nature this week. There is something magical about being so disconnected from technology, although I was connected, right? I was still connecting, I was still emailing, I was still sharing some things on social media as I do. Still worrying about the release of my book today, even like pushing the publish button last night after dinner so that this morning, actually it went live at about 3 a.m. so just timing was perfect. And then this morning logging in very quickly while we were in the midst of taking the tent down so I could add the print book link on Amazon at least to my books to read page. And then I'll worry about getting the paperback up through other means later on. But something about that connection to nature, I have to believe, is what helped relax me. So I guess what I'm saying is there's often advice that's given out. And I'm not giving advice, I'm just sharing my own personal experience. But there are bits of advice given out that may or may not sit well with you. You may embrace certain bits of advice. You may find certain bits of advice don't seem to jive with what you have and the way that you prefer to do things. It's okay to try and experiment and try something that maybe feels more natural for you. Whether that's advice about write every day and whatever, which I know doesn't work for everyone. You know, there are ways you can mitigate some of the pain points of trying to follow advice from the so-called professionals who are sharing what works for them. I'm sharing what works for me. And what works for me was, not closing down on the things and trying to reduce what I had on my plate, but trying to figure out a way to incorporate both the important personal aspects of being with the person I love the most, apart from my son, of course, but being with Alexander or being with Liz are the two big things for me, right? So the most important thing. So incorporating that and incorporating relaxing and chilling and just absorbing the moment and creating a fire and sitting in front of it and playing cards with Liz last night or experimenting. Let's do popcorn over the fire in like tin foil with a new experiment that we've never done before. And I left it on too long, so we burned half of them. But just enjoying the moment, just laughing. It reminds me of the first date I had with Liz. We went to, it was a waterfront brewery in Toronto where we met for our first sort of date. Had not met each other before, so we were going to go for a drink. It turned into long dinner and dessert and stuff because we kind of were really liking hanging out together. It kind of worked out, by the way. But anyways, that first day we get there, we met each other, not even 2 minutes, we get out to the table, beautiful table looking out onto Lake Ontario, and then it starts to rain. And Liz laughed. She thought it was funny that, we just sat down like, great, is this a sign kind of thing? Like, whatever. It was just this moment that she's just so comfortable and was like, oh, well, we'll roll with it. So we ended up moving inside to a table. And that spoke to me early on in meeting her, going like, oh wow, this is a person who can just roll with it. This is a person who, like Del Griffith says in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, go with the flow, like a twig on the shoulders of a mighty stream. And I learned a lot from Liz over the years on how to do that, because I'm a pretty high-strung, stressed-out person. I hide it a lot, but I carry a lot of that weight inside of me. Liz saw a little bit of that at me in Levack last week, where I was freaking out about something, and she said, I'd never seen you like that. And I made a joke that it was maybe related to, how Jack gets in The Shining when he's in that remote cabin. It's kind of like maybe I'm a little bit like him at this moment. There's something back here in where I grew up that just kind of clung to me. But in any case, to get back to the point, being with somebody that's important to me, relaxing with somebody that's important to me, and incorporating something that I actually, didn't realize I would enjoy, but with the right person I enjoy. I mean, I still enjoy camping, but with Liz, I enjoy tenfold. And being back with nature. When I feel stressed out, I have to remind myself. When I feel overwhelmed, one of the best things I can do for myself is go for a walk in the woods. Go for a walk where there are, and maybe it's not in the middle of the forest or where we were camping, but at least where I live, there are parks, and there are places that I can go that, right across the street behind the houses behind us, there's a trail that goes through woods. It's only about maybe not even a half a kilometer long, between a quarter and a half a kilometer long. So it's not a very long route, but it's through the woods. But just being surrounded by greenery, surrounded by nature, it seems to do the trick for me. It seems to work magic. And I'm going to go back to the Nature Principle by Richard Louv, which I read last year. Listened to a lot of it while I was walking through nature. And it brings me back to Henry David Thoreau and the project I'm working on for my master's solo project, which is, the importance of walking, the importance of nature, the importance of connecting with nature. And that is so powerful. And the reason I wanted to do, one of the reasons I want to do this, reflection on the drive is to try and optimize my time, but also I was feeling so invigorated. I was feeling I've slept so well. Despite the fact that when I camp, I always worry that, Bigfoot or a bear or something's going to come and attack me, because, that's the way I am, my imagination, etc. But other than those moments where I woke up and thought there was a monster outside my tent, or someone trying to break into my car and steal my laptop, I slept really well, and I feel energized, and I feel, there's a lot going on in the next few weeks. I am going to be stressed out beyond belief. It's going to hit me again. But right now, having done this recharge with nature, without having to completely disconnect from everything and everyone, which for me causes more stress, because I come back to it and go, okay, I missed this, I missed this, I missed that, I missed the other thing, I got to get caught up. I'm feeling good. And I know I'm going to be stressed again in a couple of weeks, but maybe I just have to remind myself when I'm in Gunnison, part of the Masters. Maybe it's just hey, I'm just going to go take a walk. I'm going to, go up that little small mountain near the campus. Take a hike across campus, beautiful campus. I was on it last year when I was teaching there. But yeah, that reconnection with nature. Maybe try it if you've not tried it. Even just the studies that were in the Nature Principle by Richard Louv showed that just seeing green scenery like trees, office workers, their office building, like the people who face the parking lot of the street versus the people who face like greenery, that alone creates a significant difference in the way that people approach and their enjoyment of work in general. Like it's just amazing. So maybe that works. Maybe it's ideally you're looking at something real rather than a picture. But, even the pictures that I have on, like Microsoft, right, on my laptop that come up, you have the option to say if you like it or not. I always like the ones that are landscape and outdoors pictures. And they always come up, and when I'm at home, I do my blood pressure every morning. And I usually just look at the pictures and take deep breaths while I'm doing my blood pressure, and I know that helps reduce it. And I know that helps me in many ways, because now that I'm feeling energized, I have a lot of work that I have to do today, including, editing, my throat clearing, and all the other things from all the other things that I have piled up today. And the work, starts now, but the work will continue until about 10 o'clock tonight when I have that class, the Masters of Publishing class. So much to do today, but I'm feeling like I can do it. I have the drive, I have the energy, I feel refreshed enough that I can make this happen. And that, I guess, is my lesson and my big, long, rambling reflection for today. Thanks so much for listening. I look forward to reconnecting with you next week, where I will release another episode. If you do like this podcast, do feel free to share it with someone that you think would find value in it. I'd love if you left a review on wherever you listen to podcasts. And a huge thank you, of course, to all the patrons who support this podcast over at patreon.com/darkreflections. And I do know that one of the things I have to work on that I haven't finished is I do need to get the extra content up for you guys from last episode. I realized I missed out on one of those things. And I know you're very forgiving and very understanding of those things. But yeah, I neglected to get a couple, and there was one other piece I wanted to post for patrons. So hoping I can get to that, if not today, then in the next few days. But thank you again so much for listening. As always, until next week, this is Mark Leslie Lefebvre wishing you great writing, good Stark reflections, and maybe, just some small little reconnection in any way you can with nature.
Thank you for listening to the Stark Reflections podcast. You can find show notes for each episode at starkreflections.ca.
The music for this podcast, Laser Groove, was composed and produced by Kevin MacLeod. Check out more of Kevin's great music at incomptech.com.